The whispers followed Olivia Evans like persistent shadows as she walked down the dusty main street of Muskogee, Oklahoma Territory, in the spring of 1885. At 30 years of age, she kept her chin high despite the weight of their judgment pressing down upon her shoulders. 6 years of marriage with no child to show for it had marked her as different broken, according to the town gossips who had nothing better to do than count the months and years of her supposed failure. "There she goes again," Olivia heard Mrs. Patterson murmur to her friend as they stood outside the general store. "Poor Walter Evans. Fine doctor he is, but what good's a wife who can't give him children?" Olivia clutched her basket tighter, pretending not to hear as she continued toward the apothecary. Her husband's medical practice was thriving, but their home remained quiet, too quiet. Each month brought renewed hope and crushing disappointment. Each year that passed made the whispers grow louder. She entered the apothecary, the little bell above the door announcing her arrival. Mr. Finch, the elderly proprietor, looked up from his ledger and smiled warmly. "Afternoon, Mrs. Evans. What can I help you with today?" "Just some headache powder for Walter. He's been working long hours." Olivia approached the counter, relieved to be treated normally by at least one person in town. As Mr. Finch prepared her order, the door chimed again. Olivia turned to see Martha Wellington sweep in, her expensive dress rustling importantly. The woman's eyes lit with malicious glee upon spotting Olivia. "Mrs. Evans, how fortunate to run into you. I was just telling Reverend Phillips how we must remember you in our prayers." Her voice carried deliberately through the small shop. "Such a burden you bear." "My sister had the same affliction barren as the desert. Of course, her husband eventually found comfort elsewhere." Olivia's face burned with humiliation, but she managed a tight smile. "How thoughtful of you, Mrs. Wellington, though I don't recall asking for your prayers." Mr. Finch cleared his throat loudly. "Your powder, Mrs. Evans." Olivia paid quickly and left, Martha's laughter following her out the door. She hurried down the boardwalk, desperate to escape back to the sanctuary of her home, when she collided hard with someone turning the corner. Strong hands steadied her, preventing her from falling. "Whoa there! My apologies, madam." Olivia looked up into the suntanned face of a stranger, a tall man with striking blue eyes and sandy blonde hair beneath a well-worn Stetson. His clothes were trail-dusted but of good quality, and he regarded her with genuine concern. "Are you all right, madam? I wasn't looking where I was going." "I'm fine," she managed, stepping back. "It was my fault. I was distracted." The man tipped his hat. "Adam Thornton, at your service. Just rode into town." "Olivia Evans," she replied automatically, then glanced over her shoulder to see Martha Wellington watching them with narrowed eyes from the apothecary doorway. "Perfect. More gossip for the mill." "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Evans," Adam said, noticing her discomfort. "I don't suppose you could point me to the local doctor. My friend took a bad fall from his horse about 10 miles back. Got him settled at the hotel, but his arm needs looking at." "My husband is the doctor," Olivia said, grateful for the shift in conversation. "His office is just down the street, that white building with the blue door." Adam's smile widened. "Much obliged. I'd best be on my way then. Good day to you, Mrs. Evans." Olivia watched him stride purposefully down the street, his spurs jingling faintly with each step. There was something different about him, something that didn't fit the typical cowboys who passed through Muskogee. She pushed the thought aside and continued home, where at least the walls wouldn't whisper behind her back. That evening, as Olivia set the table for dinner, Walter arrived home later than usual, looking tired but pleased. "Interesting day," he announced, hanging his coat on the rack by the door. "Had a cattleman come in with his foreman. The foreman had a broken arm, clean break, thankfully." Said it without much trouble. Olivia placed the roast on the table. Would that be Mr. Thornton? Walter looked surprised. Yes, Adam Thornton. How did you know? I literally ran into him in town. He was looking for your office. Fine fellow. Just purchased the old Hargrove Ranch outside town. Plans to establish a cattle operation. Said he's moved here from Colorado. Walter washed his hands in the basin before sitting down. Could be good for the town, bringing in business. Olivia nodded absently, serving the vegetables. Another newcomer who would eventually learn of her failure as a woman and look at her with the same pity as everyone else. He invited me to visit the ranch next week. Walter continued. Wants to establish medical care for his men. I thought perhaps you might accompany me. It would do you good to get out of town. Olivia hesitated. The idea of escaping Muskogee's judgmental eyes was tempting. Perhaps I will. The following Sunday after church, the whispers seemed particularly vicious. Olivia had made the mistake of holding her friend's new baby during the service, and the sight had set tongues wagging anew. Such a shame, said Beatrice Miller loudly enough for Olivia to hear as she passed. She looks natural with a child, but the Lord hasn't blessed her womb. Walter Evans deserves sons to carry on his name, her husband agreed. 6 years is a long time to wait for nothing. Olivia quickened her pace toward the churchyard gate, desperate to escape. Mrs. Evans. She turned to find Adam Thornton standing beside a handsome buggy, dressed in his Sunday best. He looked even more striking than she remembered, his clothes emphasizing his broad shoulders and tall frame. Mr. Thornton, she acknowledged, forcing a smile. I was hoping to speak with your husband about that ranch visit he mentioned, but I see he's engaged with the Reverend. Adam nodded toward where Walter was deep in conversation with several church elders. Perhaps you might relay a message. I've arranged for some improvements to the main house and thought Thursday might be a good day for your visit if that suits. I'll tell him, Olivia promised, grateful for the distraction from her humiliation. Adam studied her face. Forgive my forwardness, madam, but you seem troubled. Is everything all right? The unexpected kindness in his voice nearly broke her composure. Just a headache forming, she lied. The heat, you know, of course. He didn't look convinced but was gentleman enough not to press. Well, I hope to see both of you Thursday. I've hired a fine cook, and she's eager to show off her skills. As he tipped his hat and turned to leave, Mrs. Wellington approached, her expression openly curious. My, Mrs. Evans, making friends with our handsome new neighbor. The woman's eyes gleamed with malice. How neighborly of you. Though I wonder what interest a virile young rancher could have in a good day, Mrs. Wellington. Olivia cut her off sharply and walked away, her cheeks burning. That night, after Walter had fallen asleep, Olivia lay awake, staring at the ceiling. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of hoping each month would bring news of a child. 6 years of remedies, prayers, and ultimately, silence from God. Walter had been patient and kind, never blaming her, though they both knew where the fault lay. Her monthly courses came with painful regularity, mocking her with their presence. The town doctor's wife, unable to conceive. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, least of all Olivia. Thursday arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Walter and Olivia set out for the Thornton Ranch in their buggy, traveling the 5 miles outside town in comfortable silence. As they crested the final hill, Olivia gasped at the transformation of the old Hargrove place. What had been a dilapidated homestead was now a hive of activity. Workers were constructing new outbuildings, repairing fences, and a fresh coat of white paint brightened the main house. Cattle dotted the distant pastures, and several cowboys moved among them on horseback. Adam Thornton himself rode out to meet them as they approached, his easy smile welcoming. Dr. and Mrs. Evans, right on time." He dismounted smoothly, tying his horse to the hitching post before helping Olivia down from the buggy. His hands were strong and calloused but gentle as they circled her waist. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Olivia felt an unexpected flutter in her chest before he set her carefully on the ground. "I've got coffee brewing and Rosa's prepared quite a spread," Adam said, leading them toward the house. "Then I thought I might show you around if you're interested." The main house was simple but comfortably furnished, with new curtains at the windows and fresh-cut wildflowers on the table. Rosa, a plump, middle-aged woman with a kind face, served them coffee and homemade pastries while Adam outlined his plans for the ranch. "I've got 50 head now, but I'm aiming for 300 by year's end. Good grazing land here, better than what I had in Colorado." He looked at Walter. "And I'll need a doctor who understands ranch injuries. Cowboys aren't known for their caution." Walter nodded enthusiastically, discussing potential arrangements while Olivia sipped her coffee and observed their host. There was something compelling about Adam Thornton, a quiet confidence that didn't need boasting. He spoke intelligently but without pretension, and she noticed he addressed her directly, including her in the conversation rather than talking around her as many men did. After the meal, Adam suggested a tour. "I've had a bugboard readied if you'd like to see the pastures. Or Mrs. Evans might prefer to remain here with Rosa if riding around in the dust doesn't appeal." "I'd like to see it," Olivia said quickly, surprising herself. The idea of returning to town and its whispers held no appeal. Adam's smile widened. "Excellent." The afternoon passed pleasantly, as Adam showed them the improvements he was making: the new barn, the bunkhouse for his men, the spring-fed creek that would sustain his herd through summer. Walter and Adam discussed business arrangements, with Walter agreeing to regular visits to tend to ranch injuries and illnesses. As they prepared to leave, Adam handed Olivia a small bundle wrapped in cloth. "Rosa sent these for you, her cinnamon pastries. She said you seemed to enjoy them." "That's very kind, thank you," Olivia said, touched by the gesture. "Perhaps you might visit again," Adam suggested, his blue eyes holding hers. "Rosa mentioned she'd be happy for some female company now and then. And I've some books from back east that might interest you. I noticed you admiring my small library." Olivia felt Walter's curious gaze on her. "That would be lovely," she said carefully. On the ride back to town, Walter seemed thoughtful. "Thornton's an interesting fellow. Self-made man, from what I gather. Built his first ranch from nothing after the war, sold it at a profit, and is starting over here. He seems kind," Olivia ventured. Walter nodded. "Yes, and not one to stand on ceremony, says what he means." He glanced at his wife. "Would you like to take him up on his invitation? Visit the ranch occasionally. It might do you good to get away from town gossip." Olivia looked at her husband, surprised by his perceptiveness. "You've noticed, then?" Walter sighed, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "Of course I've noticed, Olivia. The way they look at you, at us, as if our worth is measured only by children, isn't it?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. "A woman's purpose is not solely to bear children," Walter interrupted firmly. "You're my wife, my partner. What happens or doesn't happen with children doesn't change that." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "But you deserve a son." "I deserve nothing more than what I have," he said gently. "Now, about Thornton's invitation." Over the next few weeks, Olivia found herself visiting the Thornton ranch more frequently. Initially, she accompanied Walter on his professional visits, but soon she was making the trip on her own, ostensibly to bring baked goods to Rosa or to borrow books from Adam's growing library. The ranch became her refuge, a place where no one whispered behind her back or looked at her with pity. Rosa taught her to make traditional Mexican dishes, filling the kitchen with spicy aromas and lively conversation. And Adam treated her as a person of value, not as a failed woman. He sought her opinions on books they'd both read, listened attentively to her thoughts, and seemed genuinely pleased by her visits. Sometimes they would walk along the creek in the late afternoon, talking about everything and nothing while the setting sun turned the landscape golden. "You're different here," Adam observed during one such walk in late June. "More at ease." Olivia trailed her fingers along the tall grass beside the path. "It's peaceful. No one here is counting the years of my marriage or speculating about my womb." As soon as the words left her mouth, she froze, mortified by her candor. "I apologize. That was inappropriate." But Adam didn't look shocked or uncomfortable. Instead, his expression held understanding. People can be cruel about things they have no right to judge. "The town thinks Walter should have set me aside years ago," Olivia admitted, the words pouring out now that she'd begun. "Find a woman who can give him children. And what does Walter think? He says it doesn't matter to him." Adam was quiet for a moment. "But it matters to you." It wasn't a question, and Olivia didn't treat it as one. They continued walking in silence until Adam spoke again. "My wife died in childbirth," he said quietly. "Her and our son both, 5 years ago now." Olivia looked at him, stunned. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." "No reason you should. I don't speak of it often." Adam's profile was sharp against the setting sun. "For a long time after, I thought my life was over too. Threw myself into work, built up my ranch in Colorado, but it was empty. That's partly why I came here, to start fresh." Olivia felt a new connection forming between them, a shared understanding of loss and longing. "Does it get easier? The pain?" Adam considered this. "It changes, becomes less sharp, more of an ache you carry. Some days you hardly notice it, others it's all you can feel." They stood together at the creek's edge, watching the water flow past. Two people bound by different sorrows but understanding each other nonetheless. As summer progressed into fall, Olivia found herself thinking of Adam Thornton more than she should. She told herself it was merely friendship, merely gratitude for a place where she could breathe freely. But in quiet moments, she acknowledged the truth: she was drawn to him in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. Walter noticed her improved spirits, but attributed them to having found friendship with Rosa and escape from town gossip. He encouraged her visits to the ranch, often too busy with his practice to question her frequent absences. One October afternoon, Olivia arrived at the ranch to find Adam alone, Rosa having gone to visit her sister in the neighboring town. "I should come back another time," she said hesitantly, standing in the doorway. "Nonsense," Adam replied. "Unless you're uncomfortable being here without Rosa as chaperone, I promise to behave with perfect propriety." There was a teasing note in his voice that made Olivia smile despite herself. "I trust you're a gentleman, Mr. Thornton." "Most days," he agreed with a wink. "Come in. I've just received some new books from St. Louis that might interest you." They spent the afternoon in his study, discussing literature and sharing stories. As dusk approached, Adam built up the fire against the autumn chill, and Olivia knew she should leave but couldn't bring herself to end this perfect day. "I should get back," she finally said reluctantly. "Walter will be wondering where I am." Adam nodded, rising to help her with her shawl. As he placed it around her shoulders, his hands lingered a moment too long. Olivia turned, finding herself mere inches from him, close enough to see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes. "Olivia," he said softly, her name a caress on his lips. The moment stretched between them, fraught with unspoken feelings and dangerous possibilities. Then Olivia stepped back, reality crashing down upon her. "I have to go," she whispered, gathering her things quickly. "This isn't I can't forgive me," Adam said, his voice rough. "I've overstepped." "No," Olivia said honestly. "You haven't done anything wrong, but I'm married, and you're loyal," Adam finished for her. "It's one of the things I admire most about you." The ride back to town was torture, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. She loved Walter. He was a good, kind man who had stood by her despite her failure to give him children. But Adam made her feel alive, seen, valued for herself alone. That night, lying beside her sleeping husband, Olivia made a decision. She would not return to the Thornton ranch. Whatever was growing between her and Adam could only lead to pain and betrayal. For 2 weeks, she kept her resolution, finding excuses whenever Walter suggested she accompany him on his visits to the ranch. But then November brought an early snowstorm, and with it, news that Adam Thornton had been injured trying to rescue stranded cattle. "Broken ribs and exposure," Walter reported, pulling on his coat. "His foreman rode in for me. I'll likely be there overnight. The roads will be dangerous after dark." Olivia felt fear clutch at her heart. Is it serious, potentially, if pneumonia sets in? Walter gathered his medical bag. "I'll send word when I can." After he left, Olivia paced their home restlessly, unable to concentrate on anything. The image of Adam hurt and in pain tormented her. By morning, with no word from Walter, her resolve broke. She hitched their second horse to the small sleigh and set out for the Thornton ranch, telling herself she was merely being a dutiful doctor's wife, bringing supplies Walter might need. The journey was difficult, the roads partially blocked by snowdrifts, but she pressed on, arriving at the ranch by mid-morning. Rosa met her at the door, looking exhausted. "Your husband has been up all night with him," she said, taking Olivia's cloak. "The fever came on just after midnight." Olivia's heart sank. "May I see them?" Rosa led her to Adam's bedroom, where Walter sat beside the bed, his medical bag open on the nightstand. Adam lay still, his face flushed with fever, breathing labored. Walter looked up in surprise. "Olivia, you shouldn't have risked the journey." "I brought more quinine and clean bandages," she said, setting down her basket. "How is he?" "Fighting," Walter said grimly. "The broken ribs aren't the problem, it's the pneumonia developing. He was in the freezing water too long trying to save those damn cattle." Olivia approached the bed, her heart twisting at the sight of Adam's powerful frame rendered vulnerable by illness. Without thinking, she reached out to touch his burning forehead. "He's so hot," she whispered. "The fever's the body's way of fighting," Walter reminded her. "But he needs it to break soon." As if sensing her presence, Adam's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then clearing slightly as they settled on her face. "Olivia," he murmured, "you came back." "Of course I did," she said softly. "Now rest, you need to get well." A faint smile touched his lips before his eyes closed again. Olivia looked up to find Walter watching her, an unreadable expression on his face. "You should rest, Walter," she said quickly. "I'll sit with him while you sleep." Her husband nodded slowly. "Wake me if there's any change." For the next 3 days, Olivia remained at the ranch, helping Walter and Rosa care for Adam as he battled the pneumonia. She barely slept, snatching moments of rest in the chair beside his bed, refusing to leave for more than minutes at a time. On the 3rd night, as she bathed Adam's face with cool water trying to bring down his stubborn fever, Walter entered the room quietly. "You should sleep properly," he said, his voice gentle but strained. "You'll make yourself ill." "I'm fine," Olivia insisted. "His fever seems a little lower tonight." Walter came to stand beside her, placing a hand on Adam's forehead. "Yes, perhaps it's breaking at last." He was silent for a moment, then said, "You care for him." It wasn't a question, and Olivia couldn't bring herself to lie. "Walter, it's all right," he interrupted softly. I've seen it growing between you these past months. The way you light up when his name is mentioned, how you find any excuse to visit the ranch. Shame and guilt washed over her. Nothing has happened. I would never betray you, I know. Walter took her hand. You're too honorable for that, as is he. He sighed deeply. But feelings aren't always within our control. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. I love you, Walter. You've been nothing but good to me. And I love you, he assured her. Which is why I can't bear to see you unhappy. He glanced at Adam's sleeping form. He makes you happy in ways I can't. Don't say that, Olivia protested. You're my husband. Walter's smile was sad. Yes, and I always will be in heart if not in name. What are you saying? Olivia asked, confused. I'm saying that when Thornton recovers, and he will recover, I'll be returning to town alone. I'll file papers for dissolution of our marriage on grounds of my abandonment. Olivia stared at him in shock. Abandonment? But that's not true. It's kinder than the alternatives, Walter said pragmatically. And it puts the blame on me, not you. The town can gossip about the doctor who abandoned his barren wife, rather than the woman who left her husband. But I haven't left you. I wouldn't, Olivia protested. Walter cupped her cheek gently. Not in body, perhaps, but in heart. We both know the truth, Olivia. I've seen you these past months truly alive for the first time in years, and these last days watching you care for him. There's no doubt where your heart lies. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. I never meant to hurt you. I know, Walter assured her. And in time, perhaps you'll see this is for the best. You deserve a chance at happiness, real happiness. So does he, and so do I. The following morning, Adam's fever broke at last. By afternoon, he was awake and lucid, though weak. Walter examined him thoroughly, pronouncing him on the road to recovery. Another week of rest, and you should be able to get out of bed, he instructed. No strenuous activity for at least a month. Those ribs need time to heal. Adam nodded, his eyes constantly seeking Olivia where she stood by the window. Thank you, doctor. I understand you and Mrs. Evans have been here for days. I'm in your debt. Walter packed his medical bag deliberately. No debt between friends. I'll return in 3 days to check your progress. He glanced at Olivia. I'll be heading back to town now. Will you be accompanying me or staying to assist with Adam's care? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Olivia looked between the two men, her husband of 6 years and the man who had awakened feelings she'd thought long dead. I should stay, she said softly, if that's all right. Walter nodded as if her answer was expected. Very well. Rosa will act as chaperone, of course. He closed his bag with a snap. I'll see myself out. After he left, silence filled the room. Adam watched her, questions in his eyes. Walter knows, Olivia said simply, about how I feel, about how we feel. She moved closer to the bed. He's going to file for dissolution of our marriage. Adam's expression shifted from surprise to concern. Olivia, I would never ask you to. You didn't ask, he offered. She sat on the edge of the bed, taking Adam's hand in hers. He says he wants me to be happy, that we both deserve a chance at happiness. And what do you want? Adam asked, his voice gentle. Olivia took a deep breath. I want to stop feeling ashamed of being barren, of being drawn to you, of wanting something for myself. She met his gaze steadily. I want to see where this path leads if you're willing to walk it with me. Adam's hand tightened around hers. I've been willing since the day I met you, but I need you to be sure. Divorce isn't taken lightly, especially here. The town will talk. The town already talks, Olivia said with a small, bitter laugh. At least this time they'll have reason. The winter passed slowly. Adam recovered his strength gradually under Olivia's care, while Walter proceeded with the divorce as promised. He cited his own neglect and abandonment as grounds, shouldering the blame and scandal entirely. The town reacted predictably with shock. disapproval, and rampant gossip. Olivia, staying at the Thornton Ranch in a separate bedroom with Rosa as her constant companion to preserve proprieties, became the subject of vicious speculation. "They're saying I bewitched you," she told Adam one evening as they sat by the fire in his study. "That I abandoned poor Walter because I couldn't give him children, and now I'm trying my luck with you." Adam shook his head in disgust. "People will always find the worst explanation for what they don't understand." "Walter is suffering for it too," Olivia said sadly. "Some patients have stopped seeing him. They say they can't trust a man who would abandon his wife." "Do you regret it?" Adam asked carefully. "Your decision." Olivia considered this seriously. "I regret the pain it's caused Walter, but not the decision itself." She looked at Adam, allowing herself to fully acknowledge what had been growing between them for months. "Not when it means I can be with you without guilt or shame." The divorce became final in early March. Walter, true to his word, made no claims against Olivia's reputation and ensured she received a fair settlement. He even visited the ranch occasionally in his medical capacity, treating Adam's men with the same care as always. "He's a remarkable man," Adam observed after one such visit. "To handle this with such dignity." "Yes," Olivia agreed quietly. "I'll always care for him." Adam took her hand. "As you should. What's between us doesn't diminish what you shared with him." 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Adam asked Olivia to marry him. They were walking by the creek, now flowing freely with spring meltwater, when he stopped and turned to her. "I know it's soon," he said, taking both her hands in his. "And I understand if you want to wait, but I love you, Olivia Evans. I have since that first day in town when you collided with me and looked up with those determined eyes. I want to build a life with you, whatever that life may hold." Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes. "Even if it never includes children, you've already lost one family. I may never be able to give you another." Adam cupped her face tenderly. "You are family enough for me. Children would be a blessing, but their absence wouldn't make our life together any less meaningful." They married in April in a quiet ceremony at the ranch, with only Walter, Rosa, and a few of Adam's trusted men as witnesses. The town's minister had refused to officiate, but a circuit preacher passing through was happy to perform the service. Life settled into a new rhythm. Olivia threw herself into being a rancher's wife, learning the business alongside Adam, hosting dinners for neighboring ranchers, and creating a true home at the Thornton Ranch. The town's gossip gradually shifted to other targets as their marriage proved steady and respectable, though Olivia was never again fully welcomed in Muskogee society. Summer came, bringing with it cattle drives, long days of work, and peaceful evenings on the porch watching fireflies dance in the gathering darkness. Olivia found contentment in her new life and purpose in helping Adam build his dream. As autumn approached, however, she began to feel unwell, tired in the mornings, queasy at odd hours. She dismissed it as a passing illness until Rosa, watching her push away breakfast for the third day in a row, raised a knowing eyebrow. "When was your last monthly time, Senora?" Olivia froze, coffee cup halfway to her lips. She thought back, counting weeks, then months. "It can't be," she whispered. "It's impossible. For 6 years with Walter." Rosa shrugged. "The ways of women's bodies are mysterious. Sometimes what doesn't happen with one man happens easily with another." That afternoon, Olivia rode into town for the first time in months, heading directly for Walter's office. He looked up in surprise when she entered, then concern crossed his face. "Olivia, are you ill?" "I don't know," she said honestly, closing the door behind her. "I need you to examine me as a doctor, not as anything else." Walter's professional demeanor took over. "Of course. Tell me your symptoms." When she finished describing how she'd been feeling, Walter's expression grew thoughtful. "It could be several things. Let me examine you." After a thorough examination, Walter sat at his desk, making notes in silence for several long minutes while Olivia refastened her clothing with trembling fingers. "Well," she finally asked, unable to bear the suspense. Walter looked up, his expression unreadable. "You're with child, Olivia." "About 2 months along, I'd estimate." The room seemed to spin around her. "You're certain? After all this time?" "The body is mysterious," Walter said, echoing Rosa's earlier words. "Sometimes there's no medical explanation for why conception happens with one partner and not another." He managed a small smile. "Congratulations." Olivia studied his face, searching for signs of hurt or resentment, but found only genuine goodwill. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Walter nodded, understanding all she left unsaid. "You should take it easy on the ride home. No galloping. And come see me in a month sooner if you have any concerns." Olivia rode home slowly, her mind reeling with the news. A child. After years of mockery and whispers, after accepting she would never know motherhood, she was carrying Adam's child. She found him in the barn, discussing breeding plans with his foreman. When he saw her, his face lit with a smile that still made her heart skip. "You're back early," he said, excusing himself from the conversation to join her. "Everything all right in town?" Olivia took his hand, leading him outside into the privacy of the autumn afternoon. "I saw Walter," she began, watching his expression carefully. Concern immediately crossed Adam's face. "Are you ill? You've been tired lately." "Not ill," Olivia said, a smile beginning to form despite her nervousness. "Adam, I'm going to have a baby, our baby." For a moment he simply stared at her as if not comprehending her words. Then his face transformed with wonder and joy. "A baby? You're certain?" Walter confirmed it. Olivia laughed, tears springing to her eyes. "I know it seems impossible after so long, but..." Adam swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around before setting her down carefully. "Not impossible," he corrected, his voice thick with emotion. "A miracle." As word of Olivia's pregnancy spread, the town's attitude toward her shifted once more. The same women who had whispered about her barrenness now sent gifts and called at the ranch with advice and congratulations. Olivia accepted their attention with grace but kept a careful distance, remembering too well their previous cruelty. Martha Wellington herself appeared one day, bearing an expensive baby blanket and insincere smiles. "We're all so thrilled for you, Mrs. Thornton," she gushed. "After so long to be blessed at last." "Yes, it's wonderful what can happen when you're with the right person," Olivia replied sweetly, enjoying how the woman's smile faltered. The months passed, Olivia's body changing as the child within her grew. Adam treated her like precious glass, fretting over every discomfort, reading medical books borrowed from Walter, and planning elaborate nursery arrangements. "You're going to spoil this child terribly," Olivia told him one evening as he rubbed her aching feet. "Absolutely," Adam agreed without shame. "And you as well." Walter continued to oversee her pregnancy, maintaining his professional detachment during examinations, but allowing genuine warmth to show in their brief personal conversations. He had begun seeing a widow from a neighboring town, a fact that gave Olivia unexpected relief. Winter settled over Oklahoma territory, bringing snow and bitter cold. As Olivia's time grew near, Adam insisted on having Rosa sleep in the adjoining room and kept a ranch hand ready to ride for Walter at the first sign of labor. "You're more nervous than I am," Olivia teased as they lay in bed one night, Adam's hand resting protectively over her swollen belly. "I have reason to be," he said soberly. After Louisa and the baby. Olivia covered his hand with hers. This time will be different. How can you be so sure? She smiled in the darkness. Because some things you just know. This baby is meant to be, Adam. Our family is meant to be. Labor began 3 days later during a January snowstorm. Adam's carefully laid plans immediately went awry. The ranch hand dispatched, for Walter returned with news that the doctor was attending another birth miles in the opposite direction. The baby's not waiting, Olivia gasped as another contraction seized her. Rosa will have to help. Rosa, who had assisted at many births, took charge confidently, giving Adam tasks to keep him occupied while she prepared the bedroom. Hours passed, the labor progressing steadily but slowly, with Olivia walking, resting, and breathing through increasingly powerful contractions. As midnight approached, the pains intensified dramatically. Rosa examined Olivia and nodded with satisfaction. "It's time to push, Senora." Adam held Olivia's hand, supporting her shoulders as she bore down with each contraction. His face was pale but determined, his voice steady as he encouraged her. "You're doing wonderfully, my love. So strong." After what seemed like hours of pushing, Rosa announced, "I can see the head." One more big push. Olivia gathered her remaining strength, bearing down with a primal cry. There was a moment of searing pressure, then blessed relief as the baby slid into Rosa's waiting hands. "A boy," Rosa exclaimed as lusty wails filled the room. "A perfect little boy." Adam's face transformed with wonder as Rosa placed the squalling infant on Olivia's chest. "A son," he whispered, tears streaming unashamedly down his face. "Our son." Olivia stared down at the red, angry face of her child. The child she had longed for, had been mocked for not having, had finally been blessed with. Love unlike anything she had ever known surged through her. "Hello, little one," she murmured. "We've been waiting so long for you." They named him William Walter Thornton William, for Adam's father. Walter in honor of the man whose generosity had made their family possible. When Walter visited the next day, making his way through snowdrifts to check on mother and child, he was visibly moved by the gesture. "He's a fine boy," Walter said, completing his examination of the infant, strong and healthy. "We'd like you to be his godfather," Adam said, extending his hand to the doctor, "if you're willing." Walter looked from Adam to Olivia, then down at the sleeping baby. "I'd be honored," he said simply, clasping Adam's hand. Spring arrived, bringing new calves to the ranch and steady growth to young William. Olivia blossomed in motherhood, finding joy in each small milestone, the first real smile, the first time he grasped her finger, his first laugh. On a warm May afternoon, as William napped in his cradle beside her, Olivia sat on the porch sewing and enjoying the gentle breeze. The sound of hoofbeats made her look up to see Adam riding toward the house, returning early from checking the north pasture. He dismounted and came to sit beside her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "How are my two favorite people today?" "Wonderful," Olivia said, setting aside her sewing to make room for him on the bench. "William rolled over by himself this morning." "Did he now?" Adam beamed with paternal pride. "That's my boy. Next he'll be riding and roping," Olivia laughed. "Perhaps we should let him learn to sit up first." Adam took her hand, his expression growing serious. "I've been thinking, Olivia, about family." "Oh," she searched his face, uncertain of his meaning. "William is a miracle," Adam continued. "But even if he had never come along, we would still be a family, you and I. I need you to know that." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "I do know that." "Good." Adam squeezed her hand. "Because I love you for you, not for your ability to bear children. That's just a blessing added to the many reasons I cherish you." Olivia leaned against his shoulder, contentment washing over her. "I was mocked for so long," she said softly. made to feel less than a woman because I couldn't conceive. But now I understand what makes a family isn't always what people expect. As if on cue, William began to stir in his cradle. Adam reached down to lift his son, cradling him with practiced ease. "Hello there, young man," he crooned. "Have a good nap." Olivia watched them together, her heart full to bursting. From town came the faint sound of church bells, and in the distance, cattle grazed peacefully on Thornton land. This was her life now, her family, her home, her happiness. "I love you," she said, the words simple but profound. Adam looked up from the baby, his smile illuminating his entire face. "And I love you, both of you." In that perfect moment, with the Oklahoma sun warming their skin and their son gurgling happily between them, Olivia knew she had found what she'd always sought, not just a child, but true belonging. The mockery and judgment that had once defined her life in town had faded into insignificance, replaced by the love of a good man and the joy of the family they had created together. 5 years later, the Thornton ranch had grown prosperous beyond Adam's initial dreams. 300 head of cattle had become nearly 1,000. The ranch house had been expanded to accommodate their growing family, and Thornton beef was sought after throughout the territory. Olivia stood on the porch, watching as Adam taught 5-year-old William to ride his new pony. The boy sat straight and proud in the small saddle, his face a miniature version of his father's with Olivia's determined chin. "Look, Mama, I'm riding by myself," William called, beaming as Adam led the pony in a circle. "I see you, darling. You're doing wonderfully." Olivia called back, shifting 3-year-old Rebecca in her arms. Their daughter had Adam's blue eyes and Olivia's auburn hair, and a spirit twice as stubborn as either parent. "Down, Mama," Rebecca demanded, wriggling to be free. "Want to ride too?" "Not yet, little miss," Olivia laughed, kissing the top of her head. "When you're a bit bigger." Inside her, their third child stirred, a gentle reminder of the new life that would join their family in just a few more months. Walter, who still served as their doctor despite his busy practice, had pronounced it another boy at Olivia's last examination. Adam had suggested naming him James Walter, continuing their tradition of honoring the man who had given them their chance at happiness. Walter himself had married the widow from the neighboring town 2 years earlier, and now had a stepdaughter he doted on, though no biological children of his own. Life had a way of working out, Olivia reflected. Not always as expected, not always according to plan, but often for the best if one had courage to follow one's heart. The town of Muskogee had grown too, modernizing with the coming of the railroad and new businesses. The old gossips still whispered occasionally when Olivia came to town, but their words had lost their power to hurt. How could they, when her arms were full of children and her heart full of love? Martha Wellington had moved away after her husband lost their fortune in bad investments. Beatrice Miller had apologized to Olivia at church one Sunday, admitting she'd been unkind in the past. "I was jealous," she'd confessed. "My marriage was unhappy, and I took it out on you." Olivia had accepted the apology graciously. The hurts of the past couldn't be erased, but they could be healed, one relationship at a time. Adam finished William's riding lesson and lifted the boy down from the pony. Hand in hand, father and son walked back toward the house, matching grins on their faces. "Did you see me, Mama?" "Did you see how fast I went?" William asked excitedly. "I certainly did," Olivia assured him. "You're becoming quite the horseman." Adam's arm slipped around her waist, his hand resting gently on her rounded belly. "How are you feeling?" "Wonderful," Olivia said truthfully. "A bit tired, but happy." "Rebecca want ride," their daughter insisted, pointing at the pony now being led back to the barn by one of the ranch hands. Tomorrow I'll take you for a ride in front of me, Adam promised her. Would you like that? Rebecca nodded enthusiastically, her earlier demands forgotten. Later that evening, after the children were tucked into bed, Olivia and Adam sat on the porch swing, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. The ranch was quiet except for the occasional lowing of cattle and the chirp of crickets. Did you ever imagine this? Adam asked softly, his fingers entwined with hers. When you were being mocked in town, when you thought you'd never have children, did you ever imagine this life? Olivia rested her head against his shoulder. Never. I'd accepted that children weren't in my future. I was just hoping to find a way to live with the disappointment. She smiled up at him. Then a handsome cowboy literally ran into me and everything changed. I think it was you who ran into me, Adam corrected with a chuckle. Details, Olivia dismissed with a wave of her hand. The point is, you changed my life in ways I never expected, gave me not just children but confidence, purpose, love. Adam pressed a kiss to her temple. You changed mine too. After Lewis had died, I thought that part of my life was over. I focused on building wealth, not happiness. Then I met a beautiful, stubborn woman who looked at me like I was just a man, not a rich rancher, who valued books and conversation and wasn't afraid to speak her mind. They fell silent, content in each other's company and the life they had built together. The baby kicked and Adam laughed as he felt the movement beneath his palm. Strong little fellow, he observed. Takes after his mother. Olivia smiled, thinking of how far they had come. From a chance meeting on a Muskogee street to this moment, a thriving ranch, 2 beautiful children sleeping inside, another on the way, and a love that had overcome every obstacle. I wouldn't change a thing, she said softly. Not the pain, not the waiting, not even the cruel gossip. It all led us here. Adam tightened his arm around her shoulders. To think I almost didn't stop in Muskogee. I was considering pushing straight through to Texas. But you didn't, Olivia said, turning to look into his eyes. You stopped and you stayed and you loved me when I needed it most. And I always will, Adam promised, bending to kiss her under the vast Oklahoma sky, surrounded by the life they had created together, a life richer and fuller than either had dared to dream.